music sound is like, I mean, I have a dozen music and science books that I love. I love that intersection of neuroscience and music and sound. And I think it's the future of medicine in many ways. I think that's like a very important healing modality that we are going to dive deeper into as we progress.
All right, today on the pod, we have Caleb Spaulding. We're going to chat about our New York days, music and wellness, play, travel, LSD, MDMA, Burning Man, and the future of music. It's fun. It's a good one. I went to see Future Islands over the weekend. I had a bloody good time. I went alone. I've never been to a gig alone before, and I realized you don't need to go with anyone. Everyone is already there. Samuel Herring, the lead singer, he's cool. He's a performance artist for sure. He does the like soul contact, not eye contact. It's soul contact. The fella from Magical Clouds does that too. He's intense. They're both intense, and I love it. There's a vulnerability when Samuel is up there, and he doesn't give a shit, and that is so attractive to me. Actually, Caleb and I talk about vulnerability. That's the segue. Let's do it. What has it been? 15 years since we like worked together when we first met?
It's been like almost exactly 15 years. It would be like this July would be 15 years. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. Brooklyn, baby. We met in Brooklyn. You still in Brooklyn?
I'm still in Brooklyn, in Greenpoint. I'm in the same like 2-mile radius that I was living in 15 years ago.
Wow.
I just don't love change. I like consistency.
And you were in a band. I remember it had some obscure name.
Yeah. Well, we had 2 names in the time that we were working together. It was at first called Blue Chip Village, and then we changed our name to Gone Quite Mad, which was from a Bukowski poem. That's where we got that name. And actually, occasionally I go and like YouTube search us to watch old videos, and some of the best content Spencer actually took, and it's still up. Yes, it's still up on YouTube. Yeah, but that was a wild time.
I think I remember the name change now, actually. Did you ever do like busking work? Like, as you know, I know a lot of musicians. I had a classical guitarist friend who's like, "Oh, I'm gonna busk for an hour just for some like going out money tonight."
It's funny. I very rarely busked. I think I've only maybe busked like, which is a really hard word to say, by the way, busked. I think maybe less than a dozen times. It was just like we were so focused on just trying to play concerts, and at the same time I had a day job, and so it was hard to do. I feel like the good busking hours are like midday, Monday through Friday, and I was just trying to like pay rent in New York City.
Yeah, we were all trying to pay rent in New York City.
Yeah.
How'd you get from sales to what you're doing now?
Well, I think another way of looking at it is that when I moved to New York, literally 15 years ago, like next week, I moved with my rock band from Virginia right out of college and had the goal of being a musician in New York City, having basically zero connections in New York, knowing nothing really about New York at a time when the New York indie rock scene had honestly, the bubble had kind of already burst. I think we were like a year, maybe 2 years behind the real bubble of like TV on the radio and Vampire Weekend and all those guys. But we were like chasing that dragon, trying to make that dream a reality. And when I moved to New York, I remember being so like, oh shit, I was not prepared for how expensive this was going to be. And also like, which is a funny thing to say now because it was way cheaper than it is now. But for a 22-year-old, it was very expensive and I had to get a job. And so I was walking up and down Bedford Avenue with a suit on, going into bars being like, can you use a bartender? Which is just, I mean, hilarious that I would wear a suit to do that. But I didn't know, I was like, I don't know how to get a job in New York. I'm just going to wear a suit and see what happens. And I ended up on Craigslist because people could get jobs on Craigslist back then, and found the job with you all. And it was, I think it was like a very simple Craigslist post, like looking for a salesperson. And I was like, I mean, I just need a job. I would have done anything. You know what I mean? So I had never done sales in my life. I was right out of college, you know, and I was a political science major. So I didn't have a background in that. I just was like, I'll do anything to make money so that I can chase this dream. So really, I think it's more of a story of me doing whatever I need to do the thing that I really want to do, which was play music in New York. And yeah, I just had to learn as I went. And I do think that sales is like if you're an outgoing enough person, I think anyone can do sales. It's like kind of just like living life is sales, like negotiating, going on a date or being friends with someone, like that is sales in its own right. So yeah, that never felt like my career. That felt like the thing that I was doing to be able to be a musician.
That was such a great group of people. Project Energy Savers.
Yeah.
With Josh Wolf. I'm still friends with pretty much everyone from that time.
It was a great, what I really loved about that chapter is that it introduced me to a version of New York that I don't think I would have been introduced to if I would have just been hanging out with like my fraternity friends who had also like moved to New York. Like I was, you know, hanging with these other guys right out of college who were my age, even my band, right? Like they were, you know, we were all like these young guys who weren't from the city. And a lot of the people at Project Energy Savers were a couple years older than me and had been in New York and like knew the New York art scene in a different way, especially like the Dumbo art scene, which was so cool in 2010 in that period of time. And so, you know, like even like how we'd go to like the happy hours together down in the corner bar, or like to I forget the name of that, like that art space a few blocks away with like the water.
Galapagos.
I just think there were like, and there was like the Creators Project. There were so many cool things happening in Dumbo. And, you know, you and Spencer and Chris and like all these people were so creative and were doing their own version of creativity that wasn't what I was used to with music. And it just like allowed me to have this like vision and version of New York that was I would have never dreamed of. That it felt like very idyllic and very like out of a movie.
It was like the possibilities were endless.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now you've carved like this niche for yourself. Well, first of all, we didn't even tell our listeners that you're a drummer.
That's true. I'm a drummer. Yeah.
Okay, so you're involved in these workshops and meditations, the class and Wanderlust. How did you get involved in these?
Well, yeah. So I think, how do I start this? Well, what I realized maybe 10 years ago was that there's a million drummers in New York City and everyone's trying to get the same gig. Around that time, I somehow I got introduced to the wellness world. I mean, really, it's been even almost for like 12 or 13 years. And I just kind of was following that thread as someone who, I was pretty stressed out in my mid-20s and was like trying to figure out how I was going to make money, what my career was going to look like, and started turning to music, not just as a thing that I did as an identity that I have, but actually as like a modality for mental health, and saw that and experienced that drumming, like playing drums was like, playing music was just a tool to make me feel happier. Period. Like at that point in time, I was just doing it for me. I was like, I love playing music. It brings me joy. And little by little, I started I was actually at a party, and I met this woman named Parvati, who ended up becoming a really close friend and collaborator for a few years. And she told me about this book called Drumming at the Edge of Magic, which is by Mickey Hart, who's one of my idols, one of the drummers of the Grateful Dead. And the whole book is diving into basically like the ethnomusicology of drumming, of rhythm, like the story of rhythm around the world, not just for like playing on stage, but how drumming has been used in religion and in healing circles. And it just goes so much deeper than Western music. And it fascinated me. And I felt like as I was reading this book, I was reading like the equivalent of a Bible. Like it was like sacred text to me. And every page I would read, I would be like, yes, this is it. Like this is affirming the thing that I feel like I know inside of my like soul, inside of my core, that rhythm is this powerful thing that is bigger than tapping on a drum and dancing at a concert. It's like, it is our life. It is our heartbeat. It's our breath. And so I just like was obsessed with this idea. And I found that the more I talked about it and like brought it up to certain people, I would like have these conversations where people would be like, oh yeah, I totally agree. And they'd be able to like kind of reaffirm the thing that I was believing and was talking more about. And I just kept digging into this idea, and it led me into the meditation world, into the yoga world, into like the wellness world. And I really just kind of got lucky and was meeting different folks in the wellness world at that period of time. One of whom is this dear friend named JC, who is a facilitator. She's a teacher at the class, which is a workout class in New York, started by this woman named Taryn Toomey, another dear friend of mine. And what they're doing is this very like rhythmic, somatic workout class. And I was invited to drum at it in 2017. And it became this amazing community of people that I've been tapped into ever since, where I incorporate live drumming occasionally into their classes. And it's just this great way for people to tap into their own internal rhythm. So from that, I've been developing my own practices here and there, different workshops, different experiences that use live drumming, that use live rhythm to help people have a internal experience. And most recently, what that looks like is my own version of breath work. So we're using the live drum to help people connect to their breath and get out of their head, get out of that cerebral monkey mind for 45 minutes and get tapped into their body, get tapped into their natural rhythms. And I find it to be very transformative, transportive. Yeah, you're right. It's such a weird niche that I've carved out, but it also feels so perfect. It feels so aligned for who I am. And I would say like right now at this juncture of my life, I feel like I've cracked the code. I've like figured out the thing that brings all of my interests and desires and skills into this one container. And that feels really great.
You found it. You're doing it. Talk to me about these corporate team building workshops you do.
And I've done a couple different iterations of this. I mean, I started doing corporate stuff, I think in like 2018. And at the time it was a little bit more like classic team building. Like I was bringing in drums and we were like learning about active listening and leadership and collaboration through the lens of drumming. And so I was doing that with companies like Google and LinkedIn and Hinge and some other like smaller tech companies. And it was great. And actually, I feel like I was right on the cusp of something with that when COVID hit. That's like everyone's story. Everyone's like, I was doing the thing and then COVID hit. And I figured out a way to do it virtually in a different, unique way, and had some traction there. And now it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more one-off. I kind of change the experience based off the client, but yeah, it's a somewhere between team building and wellness, where I can do more breath work, more like meditative wellness, mental health events in a corporate space for like an offsite, or for like a day experience, or I do the more like team building, hands-on thing where we're like all playing drums together and it becomes this orchestra of finding your own rhythm. But yeah, it's an interesting world to play in, because and actually it's funny because then that comes back to the sales piece, right? Like that's where the sales experience is actually very valuable, because I'm having to talk with these team leaders and pitch them on the thing and why this will be good for their team, yada yada yada. Which honestly, at this point, I'm like, I just don't want to do sales anymore. I just want to be doing my thing. Perfect world. I'm delivering the experience, and I have someone else kind of handling that piece for me.
As we get older, we forget how to play together.
For sure. It's so true. What's your version of play these days?
I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, I think that's a topic that I think about a lot, and is kind of, it's interesting. Whenever I've had many like sales conversations around what I'm doing, especially like the more team building side of things. And, you know, one of the ways that I pitch it is that it is about play. It's about connecting into that childlike wonder and playfulness, and how powerful would it be if we could bring that like heart-centered playfulness to our workplace. And it's kind of surprising to me how few people agree with that. And I get it, like they have this like, well, we have to affect the bottom line. Like we need to be worrying about the profit that we were making as a company. And like, obviously that makes sense. But I do think that having access to that creativity, to that playfulness, can only be beneficial to the workplace.
Yeah. I'm sure in a corporate climate too, there's a lot less playing going on.
Which I think is a shame. I think I think that there should be and could be room for it.
When you're happy what you're doing, your productivity is obviously gonna go up, right?
And look at, I mean, you know, I've never really truly been in the true corporate space, but I know enough. Yeah, but I know enough about it to know that like there's a lot of money set aside for happy hours, you know, for like getting drunk with coworkers. And like I have zero problem with going out and having drinks with friends, but I do think that there's a bit too much stress and like stress is the wrong word. A bit too much like importance put on let's connect through having 4 beers after work. And then because you're not actually being yourself then, right? And there was one corporate client I had where I won't name who they were, but they're a pretty big company. And I was like leading one of my team building things. And they also had an open bar at the same time. And so people were like drinking as they were doing this drumming thing, which like generally I don't have a problem with. But what I noticed was that people were being crazy, quote unquote, because they were allowing themselves to be like crazier on the drum because they had had a few drinks, which I looked at. I was like, well, you're not actually being yourself. Like, I'm glad that you were like letting loose, but what would it be like if you were letting loose and being that like playful version of yourself without the mask of alcohol? Again, zero judgment against alcohol. It's more of just like why can't we have the experience of sober playfulness that is like admittedly quite vulnerable, because you are being a version of you that you aren't normally being at work. But it felt like in that moment that people were taking the opportunity to drink and using that as the excuse to be the kind of playful wild child, rather than just being authentically playful. So it was because of that one where I'm like, if I do these, I really try and stress that I would like for there to not be alcohol involved, because I think it's important that people are authentically relating and connecting.
Yeah, it's that vulnerability that you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. People do have a problem about being vulnerable.
Yeah, it's hard. I totally get it. And I have empathy for the challenge. I know it's not easy. Um, but I think that's what I'm setting out to do in my work is trying to create spaces where you can be vulnerable authentically. And even if it's just a tiny bit more than you normally are, just to like practice it and to not feel like shame or embarrassment around letting yourself go a little bit, like riding that edge of vulnerability.
What your mum's an artist, isn't she?
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a graphic artist, painter mostly. Um, and she actually just opened an art gallery in my hometown in Virginia, in Hampton, uh, which is really cool. It's really cool to see how she is giving back to that community that I think gave her so much. Um, especially, it's especially inspiring given how like her age. Not that she's that old, but I feel like it's rare for someone, like past 60 to be like starting something completely new. I think a lot of people tend to, that's like retirement age, like people are coasting a little bit. And she's like starting something completely, like starting a business. And really like working hard to like engage this community that I think can use the injection of the arts in the culture. So it's very inspiring to me. It really, she's always been such a proponent of me and my siblings following the arts as much as we can and as much as we want, um, in order to like feel expressed, which is such a, I think it's a thing that every year that I get older, I have more and more appreciation for that. Like it's such an incredible gift to have that creativity so close to me, like in the stressing of creativity, self-expression.
Let's go back a bit. So you and your whole band came to New York to realize the dream.
The three of us, me and the two other guys, came from Virginia. Yeah, it was risky. I'm like looking back, and I do often. I'm like, I can't fathom doing anything else. This is just like the most. This had to happen, and I think that there's like a hard-headed version of me here. Like I know that I'm a pretty hard-headed, stubborn person. Like I always have been. And while I think that in many ways that can be like a shadow or like a not as great quality, I think in this case it actually really helped me because I tend to not really like, if someone tells me I can't do a thing, then I definitely want to do the thing. Like that's just my nature. And so I even remember people like my parents being like, "You don't have a job yet. You don't know what you're going to do in New York." I'm like, "Yeah, so what? How hard can it be?" Like and I think the naivete of that, of like the beginner's mindset, is so powerful in that moment. Like I didn't know what I didn't know, and that allowed me to take this like kind of ridiculous risk and make it work.
What are your other bandmates doing? Are they still in music?
They still dabble in music. Yeah. Our singer, he's more in the tech world now and like marketing, but he's still like singing occasionally. Our guitarist lives upstate, and he's like actually gotten really deep into photography, but also still plays guitar. And then our bassist actually is he builds basses. He builds like these incredible bass guitars. So he still plays, but I think his real focus is on like making the actual instrument, which is really cool. Like he used to make his own basses.
Have you got any favorite venues you liked playing at in New York?
Oh man, I mean, I don't know if any of them are really around anymore, which is so crazy. I think my favorite place was actually you came to it. It was our very first show at Cameo, and that's the video that I think Spencer has of us. It's at Cameo, which was in the back of this restaurant called the Loving Cup on North 6th Street, I believe, in Williamsburg, which is now like the most expensive street in Williamsburg. It's like where there's like there's like all these high-end stores there. But yeah, that was my favorite place to play. It had like this crazy jellyfish structure that hung over the stage with like lights. And I loved playing at Spike Hill, which is gone, and the studio at Webster Hall was really cool. Pianos was also cool. I think that is still around, but
Oh, that's good to hear. I like
yeah,
pianos.
pianos was cool.
Yeah.
There were a couple other places in Williamsburg that I can't even remember like Glasslands and just it's crazy. It was so easy to just like bop around New York and play a gig. Mercury Lounge is amazing. Oh, Rockwood's gone. Like Rockwood was
No, Rockwood's gone.
Rockwood just disappeared like with like a whisper. It just like faded out all of a sudden.
Yeah, Ken Rockwood owned that. Very convenient last name to have.
I feel like you should find out what happened. I think it's a mystery still. I think it was just like the building. Maybe it wasn't a mystery. Maybe it's the building raised the rent and it just was.
Because he had like 2 rooms. He had 1 room.
Yep.
And then he opened, I think, 2 other rooms.
Yeah. There were 2. Yeah, exactly. There was the first small room. Then there's the bigger second room. Then there's like the basement room too. Like that and Mercury Lounge were 2 places that were just great for up and coming musicians at many different levels to be heard and to get practice playing. I don't know what it would be like. I often think if I moved here right now with the exact same, like, vision and dream, if I was the exact same person I was 15 years ago and I moved here now, what would it be like to try and play music in New York? I mean, I just can't imagine it being easy. But it's just a whole different world too. We'd probably be doing like TikTok dances or something. Separately from all the wellness stuff that we were talking about, I play in this pretty big wedding band now in New York that has amassed a pretty big following, and a lot of the musicians in the band everyone's very talented. It's a very talented group of musicians, and I'm watching a few of them build their own audiences. And I can think of one guy in particular who's just like great at social media stuff. Like he makes very fun content on his Instagram that is related to his music. So I really think it's like you kind of create a character or characters if you're a band, and you rely on building that as your brand. So that's hard if you don't have those skills to like also make videos and to be like kind of an actor. It's actually I saw this documentary recently, which I highly recommend, about yacht rock and that whole genre. It is like talking about how all these guys like Christopher Cross and Michael McDonald, like they were like objectively amazing musicians. Like they were making these incredible hits, and it was all right before MTV took off. And most of those guys had a face for radio, if you will, right? Like they weren't exactly the most like charming actor or like video presence. Like they were no Madonna, And so part of what this documentary argues is that a lot of their careers started to like kind of fizzle out because literally video killed the radio star. It's like, and so I think it's kind of a similar thing where you can have really talented musicians from, who like went to music school, but may not be great at like making a TikTok or being an actor or having like this online persona. And it's hard to compete if you don't have that extra skill. It's almost like seeing the same thing we were seeing back when MTV was launched now with the prevalence of the social media video thing.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that before. So you play weddings? Yeah, Spencer would photograph weddings, and he, they're not the most creative, let's say.
Yeah, it's definitely, that's pretty, I can relate to that. It is very good money. And I love the people who I do it with. Like I have like my friends in that world are like incredible people, and they're such talented musicians, and we have like some of the biggest laughs. Like everyone always talks about, like the hang at those gigs is the best part. Like, between playing and like when we're having dinner and stuff, it's just like I don't laugh as hard as in those moments. It's just like it's so rich and deep, and we talk about fun and cool and interesting things. But yeah, it's hard. It's like not, we're not writing music in that space. We're hired to do a very specific thing and be a very specific person. But it's interesting because at the same time, in this moment of my life, it is really what it helps me afford to live in New York and to also be a creative doing my own thing. So it does give me a level of flexibility that I'm really grateful for, because to be able to play music and have music be my like focus is truly, it's a blessing. It's really special to me. So it's a tough subject.
I completely understand. My husband was able to be a stay-at-home dad for 4 years because of the relationships he made with CEOs and various clients who had deep pockets while living in Manhattan. Destination weddings can be a huge payout. Where are some places you've been for weddings? Give me some wedding hits.
Some wedding hits. I mean, there were a couple of years where I was going to Italy every year for a different wedding, for a gig, which was like, super cool. It's like crazy. It's such a hot spot for a wedding right now. Yeah. I think this will be the first year in like 5 years where I haven't gone to Italy. A lot of Mexico for gigs. Like that's another hot spot. International, not as much. I mean, I travel a lot in the States for weddings. A lot of LA for sure. Miami. I mean, I go to Newport, Rhode Island like 7 times a year. So like that's such a hot space. I think especially for the Northeast. And then I've had like a lot of travel tangential to music, not for weddings, but for music, where I spent some time in West Africa and Ghana in 2017 and Morocco.
Is this travel part of your Rhythm of Happiness documentary? Talk to me about this.
Yeah, totally. So on the heels of what we were speaking about earlier with this kind of dive into the ethnomusicology of rhythm and wanting to know more about the history of drumming and rhythm around the world, I set out to create this documentary, kind of like Anthony Bourdain style, around drumming. Like let's dive into the cultures of rhythm around the globe. And going to Ghana I set that up as the kind of like the pilot, so to speak, to like the proof of concept. And that was 2017, so 8 years ago. And it was incredible. It was such a powerful trip. I met so many amazing musicians and university professors and just cool people with this theory that rhythm is alive inside of all of us. And in many cultures outside of the US, it's still a very big focus. Like people haven't lost their innate connection to rhythm as I believe we have in America. Like I think that there is like this very kind of more stoic connection to like this loss of rhythm, this loss of like play, as we were talking about earlier, this loss of just like dancing and feeling free in life. Certainly not for everyone, but I think for many people. And I think that leads to depression and loneliness, which is why I called it Rhythm of Happiness, because I really believe that rhythm leads to happiness. And so that was the intent of that project. And it's cool, like where that project lives now, it's like 4 little 2-minute vignettes of storytelling around different like kind of categories of rhythm, and specifically inside of Ghana. And then it's this one like 11-minute single shot performance piece that we shot in Tamale in northern Ghana. And it's a project that I haven't really been able to fully pick up since then, and that I haven't been able to create more episodes of it or more video content. But I've been reflecting on it a lot very recently, actually. And my work, I categorize all of my work under this umbrella of rhythm of happiness. Like what I've come to realize is that what I'm doing in the world is all rhythm of happiness. And I do want to continue the video component of it. I haven't gotten there yet, but I do intend to get there. And I think that really the journey that I've been on since going to Ghana has been a really valuable piece and an important piece of that story, of that journey. And I think at some point, that video content is going to be a totally different narrative than what I intended it to be, about something related, but not exactly the same.
Just the word magical. It is music. Music is magical.
Yeah. I mean, truly, it really truly is. I had an experience in 2016 where I sat in my first sound ceremony or sound meditation or sound bath, if you will. I tend to not use the word sound bath, but it's probably the most like known way to describe it. And it was psychedelic assisted, so there were psychedelics involved, and it totally blew my mind. It changed my life. Like, I really think that June 2016, I like put in my life as like before that and after that, where I was like really experiencing sound in a new way. I was in the sound waves. I could feel the sound waves. I could see the sound waves, and was relating to music and sound in a way that was so otherworldly and magic, to use that word. And I think that also helped me go down this path that I'm on now of being more involved in the wellness world, because I've seen the power and felt the power of sound, and also helped to influence that trip to Ghana and to the whole Rhythm of Happiness project. Like, I would say that really, in many ways, was born out of that experience. So yeah, I completely agree. I think music, sound is like, I have a dozen music and science books that I love. I love that intersection of neuroscience and music and sound. And I think it's the future of medicine in many ways. I think that's like a very important healing modality that we are going to dive deeper into as we progress.
What kind of psychedelics? Mushrooms or?
Yeah, mushrooms and MDMA.
Are you involved in like any workshops, involving psychedelics and, rhythms, drumming?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a world that I deeply respect, and I think that is really important. I'm like very interested in the psychedelic movement, and I have helped assist in psychedelic circles, like drumming in them. And it's another level. Like bringing drums and rhythm into those spaces is really powerful. And I think there's like I have a lot of respect for it, which is why I am slowly tiptoeing into it, because I don't take that world lightly, and so I really I humbly have like started to tiptoe into it.
Well, there's new research out now for, LSD is really helping with PTSD. Yeah, it's definitely an untapped area, right?
Yeah.
Psychedelics.
Yeah.
What'd you say? MDMA?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that making a comeback?
Clinically, it's making a huge comeback.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the, they've been doing a lot of trials with it at Johns Hopkins, and it's one of the ones that Michael Pollan talks about in his book, How to Change Your Mind. And it's one of it's really that and psilocybin were the ones that they were working, the MAPS was working really hard to get legalized for clinical trials. So they were doing a lot of clinical trials for PTSD with MDMA as well. specifically for veterans.
I was reading about this new documentary coming out. It's about the 90s rave culture, and I know MDMA was a big part of that too. Let's see. It says it's directed by Aaron Trinder, and he has described the film as a unique look at a much underrepresented moment in cultural history. It was the last great unifying youth movement before the digital age. Yeah, I certainly felt the love and the oneness with the music and the people, out in a field, out in the middle of nowhere. The word inclusive gets thrown around a lot lately, and it to the point like I can't stand it. I detest it. Music certainly unifies all of us, and it's not like a bullshit way of coming together either. It's genuine.
Yeah, I think those settings are obviously not clinical, but and so there's like a million things that could go wrong when you talk about set and setting. But I do think that experience as a human experience is like, there's nothing like it, and I think that you're right. Like the connection to love and human connection. I don't want to get hyperbolic, but I really think it's like it could change the world. Like it's I think people who experience things like that are like not always, but often changed for the better. I think there's something really powerful about that. It's a heart opening, specifically MDMA. It's a heart opening medicine, and as we were speaking about earlier, like it's hard for people these days to tap into that heart open space, where many of us are shut down and closed off when it comes to being vulnerable and loving with people around us. And so I see this as a possible tool to help us access those points of love and connection. And I really saw like that was such a cool thing to experience. It's not limited to my trip in Ghana, but I think about that a lot with inclusivity and the way that I was invited into a lot of these really sacred circles. Like I was going to like funerals and weddings and all these areas, all these like moments in life that were happening naturally that involved music and rhythm. And to see the way that a whole community would come together, whether it was for mourning or for celebration, and play together and dance together and clap together. And it was just like, oh, it just, thinking about it just like allows me to like take a big sigh and drop my shoulders and relax, because it's so inclusive. It's so just like, but like inclusive. Like of course it is. Like it's like not a question. This is what we do. You know what I mean? And I definitely think that music has that power to be this like glue that brings people together.
What kind of lessons have you learned from your mistakes so far?
I think like when I did this trip to Ghana, I had a pretty intense interpersonal relationship with the person who I brought along to be my DP, my camera person. And I learned a lot in that trip about trust. I think I trust people very easily. I put a lot of trust, like right off the bat. I just like trust people, and I'm very like, yeah, cool. Let's be friends. Let's do it. And I kind of got screwed, to put it mildly. And it's like it's all good now. I want to be clear that it's not like I don't have like a ill will towards him. But it was a very stressful situation, and it like created a lot of tension and a lot of stress on me as the director and as the navigator of this trip. Like I ended up having to do a lot of interpersonal work to just maintain peace between us while we were there. And on the back end of the trip, like there was a lot of spoken agreements, but unwritten agreements that ended up fucking me over. So I think like trust and just being like, really careful about business decisions, like who you go into business with, and having things in writing. It's kind of like a basic lesson, but I think it's a really important one, and one I've definitely like been more cautious around ever since. Of, I love collaborating with people. I love jumping into a project with people. And now I really need to be like, all right, let's make sure we have something in writing, especially once money starts moving around, so that no one gets screwed over.
Money makes people funny.
Truly.
How many times have you been to Burning Man? Just the once?
No, I've been 6 times.
Dude, come on, talk to me about Burning Man.
I'm still surprised you haven't been yet.
Yeah, me too, actually.
I feel like it's right up your alley. Yeah, I went for the first time in 2014, so it's been a while. And I've gone like on and off since then. I mean, I don't even know where to start. I think it's such a special, that's the other thing, like, I talked about the sound meditation that I did in 2016. Burning Man in 2014 is another one of those things where I'm like, okay, there was before Burning Man and after Burning Man, because it was and is so life-changing. It's just like the connection to possibility and to synchronicity, and like, again, the word magic I sometimes like cringe at when it's used in different ways. I agree with you when it's used around music, and I also think that it's like very apropos to use it around Burning Man. Like, I think that it is a magical place, and the commitment that people bring to it, of like, we're building this thing, we're putting, people like really put a lot of effort into it. It's like, it's not a small investment from a time perspective, and also a money perspective in many ways. It's not a vacation. When I come back from Burning Man, I'm like, that was like the hardest week of my life. But it's such a joy. It's such a blast. And it's like a massive party, but it's also a spiritually deep experience. And like, the temple at Burning Man is one of the most sacred places I've ever been in the world. You walk in there and people are processing deep traumas and sadness. And the art is really incredible. Like, the things that people build in the desert. And I think also in general, the climate of the desert is such a special and sacred place. Like, it's just wild, and it messes with your mind. Like, in many ways, the desert is this medicine, this like drug, this substance that is in your brain and takes you on a journey. It's really wild. It's a really wild place. My wife Lavina and I, we actually had a wedding there in 2019. We had like a huge 200-person wedding ceremony, and that was possible because people say yes. They show up and they want to contribute and they want to make a thing happen. And it's this moment that I'll like, truly, it's like one of my favorite moments in my life was that wedding ceremony. It was just so special. And yeah. And I don't know when I'm going to go back. I like, the last time I went was 2 summers ago, and it was the year that you probably heard about, where the rain came, and it was like this like catastrophe, and the whole playa flooded. And it was legitimately, there were some moments that were kind of scary and really intense, but the way that we like rallied together and made the most of it, it was also one of the most fun. It was the most fun Burning Man I've been to. Like, it was such a blast. And we're like, the people who went through that with me were so much closer because of it, But it really, especially that one, it was so intense. And it's 10 days off the grid. It's a long time. And I think what's really important to me now in this like chapter of my life in relation to Burning Man is like, the essence of Burning Man, I believe, should be everywhere. Like, I think that there's a powerful human connectedness that exists at the burn that I believe everyone should get to experience. And Burning Man is not for everybody. Like, it's a lot. It's a really intense place. It's an intense climate. So I don't think it's fair that just people who go to Burning Man experience that. Like I see it as like a place to go and recharge my batteries, to like plug into the mainframe and be like, oh right, that's how we really can feel this deep human connection and deep human love. Now let me take just like a sliver of that and go out to the world and like give a little of that back to whatever community or communities. It's kind of like the put your oxygen mask on the plane before you help the person next to you. Like I feel like Burning Man, I put my mask on, great, I can breathe now. Now let me help the person next to me put their mask on and just like feel an essence of that. And my hope is that can be a bit contagious, like that people can connect to a little bit of that magic.
Yeah, I would love to go. What's like the demographic? If families go? Do kids go?
Yeah, families do go. I've met some cool kids there. I will say this. I do think that the Burning Man's having an interesting moment right now with their demographic. I think that Gen Z and below is not interested at all in going to Burning Man. I think it's become a little bit like, in their minds, like crunchy older people, which I do think is kind of true. Unfortunately, I think the demographic is like late 30s and above, and mostly white. I have a friend named Aaron who runs an organization called the Black Burner Project that's really working to bring more Black people to Burning Man, which I'm like, so I love what she's doing with that, and I'm such a big supporter of her in that, because I think that diversity is a thing that Burning Man definitely needs. And as like that demographic of age gets tighter, as people are getting older, I think part of that diversity is a younger crowd too. A lot of my friends and I went when we were in our early 20s, and at the time that gap of age was much wider because there were people in their 60s and 70s going, and then we were in our 20s. But now it's like mid or late 30s and up, so that the younger people aren't going. So
do you think young people like their luxuries and comfort?
I think that's part of it. The other thing I think that's happening is that when I first went in 2014, there weren't a lot of like ways to see what Burning Man looked like. People weren't taking videos and making TikToks and stuff about it. So now you can do a Google search or a TikTok search or Instagram search and see a million different versions of Burning Man. And so the mystery, unfortunately, is kind of lost. And I think that's the other piece of Burning Man that traditionally was so important, was like, whoa, I had no, like when I went, I had no idea what to expect. And so everything that I saw was completely brand new to me. But it's like, it's like going anywhere else now. Like you can look up what Mexico City looks like, and Burning Man is now kind of in that. So I think it's more that Gen Z, I think they have like a luxury thing, but I also think they're like, I've seen it. I don't want to go to the desert, but I don't know. I don't know what the future is going to bring.
Interesting. Okay, I ask all my guests this same question: what music is moving you? I mean, you're a big music head. This could probably take an hour, but we've only got 8 minutes.
The thing I come back to a lot is Fela Kuti. Like I'm such a big Fela Kuti fan. Like all that he did for Afrobeat and West African music is like it's the thing that I listen to the most when I'm just like, what should I listen to right now? So that really inspires me a lot. And I also love house music and like deep house. And I was just in Romania last week, and I found this amazing record store, and the owner had like so many cool records that were just like weird, like Afro house and like avant-garde jazz, but with like kind of more like cool percussive beats. And so I'm always like looking for interesting dance music. Like I really love dance music a lot. Like good dance music. I listen to a lot of actually Burning Man DJ sets from DJs who are friends of mine and also who I don't know. It's like how I spend a lot of my like days, just like deep in SoundCloud DJ sets. Yeah, anything from around the world. I'm world music is my favorite. Anything from around the world that has a cool beat to it and it can be danced to.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's because I'm getting old, but I'm just having a hard time relating to any kind of new music out there.
I mean, I don't know how this is gonna land with you or anyone who's listening, but I do think that Chapel Roan is pretty sick. There's something about what she's creating, and I don't know if we're gonna even know what it is yet. I think we're gonna look back maybe 5 years from now and be like, oh, she started this thing. But she's writing pop music that is so catchy. And, again, one of the benefits of playing weddings is I can really see what's popular, and seeing the way a dance floor comes alive when her music comes on. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it. It chokes me up a little bit. Like, people love her music, men and women, like everybody. And it's not like cheesy pop like some other stuff has been in the past, 15, 20 years. It feels like there's realness to it. I love her music videos. Like, they're beautiful. Like, they're cool. So generally I do agree with you, but I also think that there's possibly like a new emerging pop scene of like singers and songwriters who are making good music.
All right. Yeah, we shall see. Okay, we're running out of time. Thank you so much, Caleb, for sitting down and having a chat with me. I feel like I'm at the corner bar, like back in Dumbo era, sitting there having a chat with a Brooklyn lager in our hand.
I can like smell and taste that bar if I close my eyes. It's so like nostalgic for me.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure. This flew by way too quickly.
I'm proud of you, Caleb. You're doing it. You're doing the thing.
Thank you, Lucy. That means a lot.
I'm going to put that on my bucket list. Taking some MDMA or LSD and literally seeing sound waves.